The rain fell in sheets that night, cold and relentless, pounding the cracked windshield of Daniel's old sedan as he drove home from his second job. The wipers squeaked in protest as he squinted through the blur of water and headlights. He was exhausted, hungry, and his mind kept drifting to his little girl asleep at home with a sitter, Sophie, only 6 years old, who depended on him for everything. Daniel was a single dad in every sense of the word, broke, overworked, and yet clinging to hope that someday life would get better. That's when he saw her. On the side of the road, barely visible in the storm, a young woman stood clutching herself, drenched, shivering, her long dress torn at the hem as though she'd run through brambles to escape something. Her heels were muddy, her mascara streaked. For a moment, Daniel thought she might just be some reckless partygoer. But then he caught sight of her eyes, wide, terrified, and glassy with tears. Something told him she wasn't just stranded. He pulled over, rolled down the window. "You okay, ma'am? Do you need help?" She hesitated, glancing behind her as though afraid someone might be following. Then she nodded, voice barely audible over the rain. "Please. Anywhere, just, away from here." Daniel unlocked the door. "Hop in." She climbed in without another word. Her hands trembled as she clutched her torn dress to her chest, and Daniel noticed a faint bruise forming on her wrist. He didn't ask questions, not yet. They drove in silence for a few miles, the heater struggling against the damp chill. Finally, he asked, softly, "Do you have somewhere to go?" Her lip quivered. "No. I couldn't stay there anymore." Daniel nodded. He'd been there himself, once, at rock bottom, nowhere to turn. "Okay," he said. "Well. I've got some hot cocoa mix at home and a sofa you can sit on until you figure things out. My daughter's there, but she's a good kid. No judgment." For the first time, the woman glanced at him, really looked at him, and he saw gratitude flicker in her eyes. Her name, he learned over cocoa at his rickety kitchen table, was Elise. She didn't volunteer much, but he could tell she was from another world, her expensive shoes, her designer dress even in its ruined state, her refined manners. "Why'd you leave?" he asked gently. She stared into her cup. "I was married to a man everyone thought was perfect. Rich. Charming. CEO of a big company. But behind closed doors, he was cruel. Controlling. Tonight, I told him I wanted to leave. He didn't take it well. So I ran." Daniel swallowed hard, his heart breaking for her. He knew how it felt to be trapped by life's unfairness. He didn't push her for more. Instead, he offered her a blanket, set up the sofa for her to sleep, and checked in on Sophie, who was still asleep in her room. The next morning, the sun broke through the clouds. Sophie woke up and ran to the kitchen, her small arms wrapping around Daniel's legs. But then she noticed Elise sitting quietly at the table, sipping coffee. "Daddy," she whispered, "who's that?" Daniel smiled softly. "She's someone who needed our help. Just like we've needed help before." Sophie, in her innocent wisdom, beamed at Elise. "It's okay. Daddy always helps people. Don't be scared." Elisa's eyes brimmed with tears. Nobody had told her not to be scared in years. Later that afternoon, there was a knock on the door, loud, insistent. Daniel opened it to find two towering men in suits, holding a photo of Elise. "We're looking for this woman," one of them barked. Before Daniel could speak, Elise appeared behind him. "I'm here. And I'm not going back." The man scowled. "Your husband is offering a lot of money for your safe return." Daniel stepped in front of her, his jaw tight. "She's not property. You can tell him that." After a tense moment, the men left. Elise collapsed into a chair, sobbing, part relief, part fear, part disbelief that a stranger had stood up for her. The days turned into weeks. Elise stayed, helping around the house, even finding work at a small cafe nearby. She laughed more. She started to heal. One evening, as Sophie colored at the table, Elise pulled Daniel aside. "I've decided," she said. "I'm filing for divorce. I can't live in fear anymore. You reminded me what kindness feels like." Daniel just smiled. "You deserve to feel safe." She took his hand. "So do you." Months later, Sophie held up a homemade card, stick figures of herself, Daniel, and Elise, all holding hands. Above them, in shaky crayon letters, she'd written, "My family." Daniel and Elise exchanged a look full of gratitude, understanding, and the quiet possibility of something more. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, stopping for someone in the rain, can change two lives forever. Because in a world that often feels cold and cruel, there's nothing more powerful than the courage to help someone, even when you have nothing yourself. And there's nothing more beautiful than the hope it creates.